Hello, everyone. Hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to our webinar today, Present Simple and Present Continuous. My name is Charles. I am going to be your host for today. I hope you are all doing well, of course, staying safe and enjoying life as much as possible. I see that we have a bunch of people here today, so I would quickly like to ask those of you who are here with us live for a quick sound check. So if you can hear my voice, you can see my video as well. Please just kindly say something in our chat. Maybe you can go ahead, say hi, you can say hello, or maybe even let me know what you had for lunch today. That way we can make it a little fun. But yeah, if you can hear my voice and the presentation is up on our screen, and of course my video is there as well, please say something in the chat just so I can make sure that my voice and my video is clear today and that we have a good connection. Because let's face it, it will be a little difficult to do everything we want to do today if my connection is not there. So if our connection is good, just please let me know. And if it's not, let me know as well. Maybe my voice is not clear or there is a connection error. You can let me know. And if it happens during our webinar, just let me know in the chat. And of course, I will do my best to fix our connection errors from my side. But it seems that our connection is good so far. Hello, everyone. I see we have a bunch of people here today. Awesome to see you all. I would quickly like to introduce myself to those of you who do not know me yet. You already know, my name is Charles. I am one of the Tutlo tutors here on the platform, and I am one of the webinar hosts as well for the past few years. To get to know me a little better, I currently live in the Philippines, so I am a little bit around 6 hours ahead of everyone. Beyond that, also, I love to eat food. I had a job as a cook before. I love to read books, and I love to play sports. So if you love reading books, if you love cooking, maybe you like sports or exercising, then we have some things in common. So it's awesome to meet you today, and it's a pleasure to be able to spend the next half hour with you. I also see that we have some people that I have met before, so quick shout out to those of you who already know me. It's great to see you again. Before we get into anything too complicated today, I would quickly just like to sort of explain what we're going to be talking about and sort of what our webinar will all accomplish and be discussed. So as I do so, if you need to grab a snack, a drink, even get a notebook, you can feel free to do so, as it gives you enough time to make sure that everything is sorted. So what exactly are we doing today? Obviously, with the title of today's webinar, we are going to be talking about the present tense. Now, again, our title is Present Simple and Present Continuous. These both fall under the blanket of the present tense. Now, one thing that we do know, if you have had the opportunity to learn so, we have different parts within our tenses. Yes, we have the present tense, but you can think it starts up here, you have your present tense, and then you have certain levels underneath it that all function under the present tense. So we have to know the different parts in the present tense. And two of those parts are the present simple and the present continuous. Now, they both talk about the present, which is happening right now, but they are structured a little bit differently. Now, I know grammar might not be the easiest thing to learn, and sometimes it can be quite confusing. So we want to make sure we spend enough time today to make it as simple as possible so that you are able to understand the differences between these two things. But beyond that, also, we want to make sure that there are a few grammar rules that focus under each of these parts. There are certain rules for the present simple that makes it a little easier to remember when to use it. And there are certain rules for the present continuous that make it a lot easier for us to understand. Because yes, you have different structures, and that's okay. But when you can tell the difference with the different rules, that is actually a huge help for us to be able to know, okay, if I need to follow this rule, I need to use the present simple. Or if I need to follow this rule, I need to use the present continuous. So I hope that explains sort of what we will be doing today And just before we get into the rest of the material, here are a few reminders for you. And number one, I would just like to remind you of how long we will be here today. If this is your first time joining us for a webinar, we do our webinars for around 30 minutes, which is about a half hour. We began today's webinar at around 6 p.m., so we're going to try to finish at around 6:30, which means we'll wrap up within the next 20 to 25 minutes. During our webinar, you can use our chat to make comments about what we learned. You can even use it to participate in activities that we will have, and even to ask questions, all right? So we've explained everything. I see a few other people have just joined us. Awesome to see everyone. If you can type in the chat if our connection is okay and you have a good connection, that will be a huge help for us as well. All right, so let's go ahead, dive into today's topic, discussing the difference with the present simple and the present continuous. But like we said earlier, we want to discuss quickly what exactly a tense is, because we have the present tense, but what does that exactly mean? Well, when we have a tense, it is simply something in grammar that we use to indicate or show time. So we're trying to show the time of sort of when something is happening. If something happened a year ago, we have a tense for that. If we have something that's going to happen in 50 years from now, so in 2071, we have a tense for that. And we also have a tense to describe what is currently happening now, which is the present tense. And when we go ahead and talk about how our tenses are shown or how to tell the difference with a tense, it's typically done so with the verb. The verb is the action word sort of in our sentences, and it typically connects the first half and the second half of our sentence. And when you have a different tense, it means your verb is going to change. And when your verb changes, based off how it changes, it shows us what kind of tense we are going to be using. And a quick breakdown, it is actually quite simple. For example, you have the basic tense of our word talk, which means it's present tense. Typically, the most basic form is going to be your present tense, like talk, run, eat, sleep. Those are all present tense verbs. But if we change it to talked, that means that it's in the past tense, like we talked last week. If it happened in the past, we use talked. But if I say we talk right now, it's present tense. And in the future, we would say will talk, right? We will talk next week. Whatever it is, you just have to make sure that when you are talking about whether using the present, past, or future tense, you use your verb correctly. So before we get into the present simple and the present continuous, you have to just keep in mind that both of these are going to be using the present tense verb, which would be the most simple one, to be honest, which would be talk. Instead of having to use talked or will talk, we just use talk, eat, sleep. So that is sort of how this stays quite simple, is that our verb does not have to be too complicated. Because again, the present tense is used to talk about sort of the things that are happening now, right? Present, the right now, not present as in Christmas gift, present tense as in the right now. So now that we've sort of explained the basic connecting factor with the present simple and the present continuous, let's talk about each of these. We'll discuss the present simple, talk about how it's structured and the rules, and then we'll go ahead and go over the present continuous. And the same thing, we'll talk about how the structure is used and when we should use the present continuous. So we've discussed this. Let's go ahead, dive into it a little bit more. Let's go ahead and talk about the present simple. Now, the present simple is actually the most basic form of the present tense. It comes from that word simple. Simple means basic. Not a lot is happening. So when you have your present simple tense, it is actually probably the easiest tense to learn. When you're probably going ahead and learning English for the first time, you're going to learn probably in the present simple tense, because these sentences are quite simple. Because one, it is your present tense verb, which is the most simple form. and you have it in the present simple, which is the most basic form of your present tense. So let's talk about a little bit more on a few sentence examples on the present simple. Because again, if I'm learning the English language, I would learn sentences like, I love to watch movies. And we have our verb here, which is love, and it's in the basic form of love. I love to watch movies. Or another sentence could, for example, be, I eat a lot of chips. Maybe you love a lot of chips, or crisps, as they're called in the UK. But you have the basic form of the word eat, or the verb eat. So it's in the present tense and the present simple tense because your verb form is quite simple. So we've talked about this, but there actually is a grammar rule that we should keep in mind whenever we're going ahead and talking about the present simple tense. Now, I know you see these sentences, they are not complicated, but there actually is a rule connected to these sentences. The rule to remember is that your present simple is used to talk about a permanent situation or a routine. Whenever we have a sentence in the present simple, we are talking about something that we are currently in pretty permanently unless something crazy happens, or a routine, which means things that we do over and over. Like, for example, habits we have, or going to the gym every day, or watching a TV show at night. So let me show a couple sentence examples to be able to explain a little bit more how the present simple is following these rules. The first sentence we can go ahead and look at is, I work at a call center. Now, this is a pretty simple sentence, right? I work at a call center. I am describing my job. But if you look at it, we have the basic form of the word work, our action word, our verb, and it talks about a pretty permanent situation. It talks about my job, and it's pretty permanent. Now, I don't mean I am going to work at a call center for the rest of my life, but this is my job. It's pretty permanent unless something crazy happens. Like, I work at a call center. I study at university. I am a mom. That's a pretty permanent situation, whatever it is. Now, again, remember, permanent situation does not mean it's never going to change. It just simply means that for a quite unreasonable situation, it's going to remain in this situation. Now, to describe a routine, like I said, is either habits or things that we do regularly. Like in this sentence, I go to the gym every day. This is a routine. We have our word go in the present tense in the simple form. And it describes a routine. Why? Because we go to the gym every day. That's the same routine, a habit, a thing that we do habitually or regularly. Or it could be, I go to the gym twice a week, 3 times a week. That describes a routine. And yes, these sentences are quite simple, but they actually do follow these rules when you look at it. Now, let's just go ahead and let's go over a quick example on how we can create a present simple sentence. So let's get some participation going, because I know for the most part with grammar, you have to practice to be able to master it. So we'll have some interactive exercises throughout today's webinar. The first one is up on your screen right now. It is what we call a sentence prompt. So up on your screen, you have 3 words, she, live, apartment. And you have a picture on the right side of your screen, which is an apartment. So what I want from you all is, can you type in the chat, what would a present simple sentence look like if I combine these 3 words and make a sentence using them? But I keep it simple. I keep it in the present simple. So feel free to type in the chat, what would the sentence look like using these 3 words if I follow my present simple rules? You can be as creative as you want. You can be as simple as you want. So feel free, participate in the chat. And of course, I will give an answer later on. But when it comes to sentence creation like this, there is sort of no specific one answer I am looking for. Like I said, it can be as creative as you want to have a sentence. You just have to make sure you follow the rules. So what will we say in this case? She live apartment. What would this sentence look like? All right, I see some answers in the chat. Awesome, awesome. Yes, we could say she lives in that apartment. She lives in the apartment. She lives in the apartment building. She lives in the apartment next to me, whatever it is. As long as we follow that proper structure of making sure our verb is in the simple form, we are correct. So great job. Thank you for participating. Let's try one more just to keep it simple. Mom reads morning. So this one will be a little bit more of a creative sentence, I should say, because we have a little bit more going on. So if we have mom reads and morning, what kind of sentence can I create here? What will I do to make sure I follow the rules? We already have our verb reads, right? That's correct. So mom reads, but we want to include morning and her maybe having coffee, a book. Let me know. What do you think would be a good sentence here? But making sure that we're following the correct rules with your present simple. So I see a few answers. Awesome. I'll give maybe 5 more seconds, and then I'll read out some sentences. But it can actually be quite simple. It could be sort of mom reads her books in the morning. Mom reads every morning. Mom reads her book and drinks coffee in the morning. Or whatever it is. As long as you're, again, following that structure, this is correct. It describes a habit, right? The first one described a permanent situation, right? It described the lady living in the apartment. And that's pretty permanent unless something changes. And this one describes her routine. My mom's routine is she reads her books in the morning, or she reads a lot in the morning. Whatever it is. Awesome job. So let's up the difficulty. We talked about the simple. Let's talk about present continuous and how it's different. The thing we have to know about our present continuous is that it's formed with your to be verbs plus your verb in ing. So your to be verbs are things like am, is, are, was, were. And then we go ahead and combine a verb plus ing. But again, it stays in the present tense. So it could be a sentence such as, I am working at this firm for now. If I say I am working at this firm for now, I have my to be verb right here of am, and I have my verb work, but I added ing. So it creates a present continuous sentence. Yes, it still talks about the present, but the structure is a little bit different. Now, you might wonder, okay, why is the structure a little bit different? Well, simply, the structure is a little bit different because the rule is different. If I create a sentence that is present continuous, I am talking about a temporary situations that are happening for a short amount or a limited amount of time. Remember, when I talk about present simple, it talks about a permanent situation or a routine that I do all the time. And that's when I have the present simple structure. But the moment I add my to be plus my verb in ing, I create a sentence that describes something that is temporary or something that is not going to be permanent. Like that sentence I just discussed earlier, right? I am working at this firm for now. It's just for now. It means that it's not a permanent job. It might be a couple months, a year, but it's not going to be permanent. Or a sentence could be like, she is sleeping at the moment. Remember, your to be verbs, am, is. So we have our verb of is, and then you have your verb of sleep plus ing. So we have sleeping. So that says that this is a temporary situation. So that is the huge difference that you have to remember whenever you're speaking. You have to make sure that you go ahead and have the knowledge in your head. If you're saying that this is a temporary situation, follow your present continuous structure of your to be verb plus verb in ing. And then you have to make sure you're going ahead. If you have a permanent situation, you keep it simple. Let's do the same thing. We'll do a couple picture prompt exercises to make sure we know how to correctly structure these sentences, I should say, in the present continuous tense. So, for example, another sentence just to keep in mind, like I show on your screen, they are talking in the office. It's not going to last forever. So I want to give you all the opportunity now. So if you have some time, let me know in the chat, we have a picture of a couple, maybe parents, and they're cooking dinner. But what would be the correct sentence to make in this sense if I am following my present continuous? All right, so remember, I have to have one of my to be verbs. So type it in the chat. Let's go. Let us see some of your sentences. Remember, your to be verbs are am, is, are, was, were, and it would be dependent on parents. So parents cooking dinner. Let me know. We already have our verb ing, which is cook and ing. So cooking. So let me know in the chat what would be a correct sentence if you're following this structure of present continuous. So you could have gone along the lines of something like my parents are cooking dinner, or parents are cooking the dinner at the moment, parents are cooking dinner now, parents are cooking dinner for us. And this describes a temporary situation because you're not going to cook dinner forever, right? You're not going to go ahead and cook dinner for the rest of your life. But see, if I made a sentence like my parents cook dinner, that describes a routine that they have or a permanent situation that the parents are in charge of cooking dinner. But if I want to describe that right now they are cooking dinner, or right now they are preparing our food, we would use present continuous. Let's try one more picture exercise. She paint family. So this one would require, again, a little bit more creativity, just like the second one did earlier for your present simple. So let me know in the chat what would be the correct way to structure a sentence using these three words. She paint family. All right. So again, you have to have your to be verb, am, is, are, was, were, and you have to make sure you have your verb plus your ing, which you have paint, so you have to add ing to that. And then you have to include family, just like the picture on the right side of your screen. So let me know. Be as creative as you want, as simple as you want, whatever it is. Just make sure you follow the structure. All right, awesome. I see some great answers in the chat. Awesome. So we can make a sentence such as she is painting her family a portrait, or she is painting her family, she is painting the happy family, whatever it is. But because I used is painting, it describes it's temporary. Right now, she's painting, but she's not going to be painting forever. Very good, very good. Or somebody says she is painting her family at the moment. That's awesome. Great job, everyone. Now, we have two last exercises. All right, so I know a lot of practice, but like I said, to master your tenses, it does take quite a lot of practice. So up on your screen right now is a sentence, and I want you to tell me, is it following our present simple or is it following our present continuous? So which of these rules is it following? Which structure, I should say? If I am sitting at the stop and waiting for my bus, which one should I be using here? Is this an example of a present simple, which is letter A, or is this an example of present continuous, which is letter B? Let me know in the chat. That way, probably by now, you will be able to recognize the small differences with these two tenses. If you went ahead with letter B, present continuous, that is correct. Why? Because we do have our to be verb, which is am. And then you have sit plus ing, which makes sitting. And you also have waiting. You have two verbs in this sentence. Very good. Very good. It seems that everyone's picking it up really fast. Let's just try one more. My dad is a banker. All right. Is this sentence following our present simple, or is this sentence following our present continuous rules? Let me know. If I say my dad is a banker, is that present simple or is that present continuous? Let me know. Banker, that's a position or a job, right? So if I say letter A, is it present simple? Or if I say letter B, it's present continuous. If you said letter A, that is correct. Why? Because we just have our basic form of is, right? We have my dad is. While yes, is one of your to be verbs, right? Am, is, are, was. So that was the little confusing part. But because we do not have our verb plus ing, we keep it as a present simple sentence. And again, this is not necessarily saying the dad's going to be a banker for all of eternity, but This is his job unless something changes. Awesome. It seems that everyone's understood it. That's great. So let me give everyone 3 quick reminders from today's webinar. Remember our present tense, which talks about the things that happen now. And you sort of have your 2 branches or your 2 forms that we discussed. Present simple, which follows a very simple structure. And you have present continuous that follows the structure of a to be verb, which is one of 5, and your verb plus ing. And remember the different rules. If we have present simple, it talks about something that is a permanent situation or a routine that we do. But if we use present continuous, we are describing a temporary situation. So make sure whenever you use your present tense, if you want to use it for something temporary, make sure you use present continuous. But if it's permanent or routine, make sure you use present simple. So I know we discussed a lot of material today. This was quite a lot of information. So I, of course, want to make sure that everything was clear to all of you. So we have maybe 1 to 2 minutes for any questions. If you have a question that you would like to ask, simply do so just by asking it in the chat. And of course, I will go ahead and answer it to the best of my abilities. But for those of you with no questions, that's okay. I won't force a question. I would just love to hear from you what you thought about today's topic. So there's currently a poll up on your screen that asks if you found today's webinar useful. I would love to hear from you if you learned something, if you benefited from it. At the end of the day, these topics can be quite confusing, but I hope we were able to explain everything clearly and do everything that we needed to accomplish. We still have a minute or so for your questions, but one last poll to run by everyone. Would you consider joining us again for another webinar in the future? If you are interested, we do our webinars from Monday to Friday on various different topics. Like today, we focused a bit on grammar, but we do things like travel, business English, and so many more things. So find a topic that you would love to learn, and of course, a difficulty level you think you can do. And we would love to see you there. All right, I don't see any questions, so we can wrap up today's webinar. But before we finish, quick reminder, you can actually find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. We post content on our social medias to keep you updated, but we also post things like fun facts and many learning videos. So check us out on our social medias and keep in touch with us through there. That's all from me today. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. I hope you learned something. Like I said, grammar can be quite difficult, and it might not be the most fun topic that you would want to go ahead and discuss. But if this was something that helped you and you were able to learn something, I am glad. Until next time, everyone, I hope to be able to see you again. Maybe we will get that opportunity through another webinar on the platform, or maybe a lesson on Tootlo. Until next time, stay safe, have a great rest of your day, and goodbye for now.